Should you submit a disassociation letter or not submit a disassociation letter? That, my dear, is the question. Hey, and welcome back to Same Old Tea. In today's video, we're going to be discussing, should you as an XJW submit a disassociation letter or should you not? This conversation came up last week in a couple of my lives, and I thought it would be a great video to cover because many XJWs may be thinking about this decision. Should they or should they not? Okay, so let's first start with the distinction between disassociation, fading, and being disfellowshipped. So in this part, you all have to forgive me because I will be using my notes because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything in regards to distinguishing between disassociation, fading, and being disfellowshipped. All right, so let's get into it. So what is disassociation? This is when you voluntarily write a letter stating that you no longer wish to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. This is an official, deliberate exit from the organization. What happens? The elders announce that you are no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You are shunned just like someone who is disfellowshipped. Family and friends who are still witnesses will likely cut off all non-essential contact. All right, so that's disassociation, what it is and what definitely could happen. All right, so what is fading? Fading is when you stop attending meetings, field service, and gradually distance yourself from the organization without formally resigning or getting into trouble. What happens? If done quietly, you may still maintain some limited relationships with JW family and friends. If you're too open about your beliefs or lifestyle, elders might try to meet with you, and that could lead to a judicial meeting, committee, or you being disfellowshipped. So that's what fading is. That's what can happen. So now what is disfellowshipping? You are expelled from the congregation by a judicial committee, usually for what they deem serious sin, like apostasy, sex outside of marriage, or not being repentant. What happens? You are formally shunned. A public announcement is made that you are no longer AJW. Reinstatement is only possible by meeting strict requirements over time. Okay, now that we have that, clear distinction between the three, how many of us who faded felt like we had disassociated? I felt like I had disassociated. I no longer associate with the witnesses. I don't go to the Kingdom Hall. I don't go out in service. So I thought that, technically that was disassociation. But according to that definition, it may not truly be the case. And the reason I say that is because, like I mentioned, this conversation came up in a live last week here on the channel. So some really good points was made. And one of those points was that when you don't submit a disassociation letter, it basically gives the organization the right to continue to kind of keep you on the roll. And so as some of us may have learned that in other countries, I don't think it's here in America, but in other countries, religious organizations, are given funds, I guess, to support their work based on the number of people they say that they have as members. So for some people, learning that information is what prompted them to submit that letter, because they did not want this organization getting money based on them, even though they're just one person, right? Still being on the roll, so to speak. And so that was enlightening for me because I did not know that, did not realize that, and could see how that could be a motivator to get someone to say, hey, I'm going to submit a disassociation letter. But let's get into pros for submitting a disassociation letter, and then we'll get into some cons. So let's take a look at some pros for submitting a disassociation letter. Number one, reclaiming your power. Give me that watchtower. Give me that. I'm taking my power back, right? So when we submit a disassociation letter, we are reclaiming our power. We are taking control of our narrative instead of waiting to be marked or disfellowship. So instead of being quietly shunned, instead of being disfellowship, it's like I'm a one up y'all. I don't need you to kick me out. I'm kicking myself out, right? So that's number one. Number two, it provides clarity and closure for a lot of people. It's a firm, clean break from for a lot of people, the emotional ties as well as the spiritual ties. And it shows that you have no more fear of the elders. You know, you made up your mind, you've made your decision. Take that, elders. And I dare you to give me a call. I dare you, to read off my name, which that came up as well in the live, that people are getting smart and they're putting legal information in that disassociation letter that lets them know if you read off my name or if you say anything, legal action will be taken. And I applaud them for that, because who are you to try to defame my character, you know? And in some cases, people do it almost as like a witness to the other people, right? Especially when you're somebody who once identified as strong in the truth, right? So now if people find out that you submitted a disassociation letter, it may make them say, well, wait a minute, if sister so-and-so, brother so-and-so is disassociating, maybe I need to do some investigation. So some people do it like that, right? They always will tell us, everything you do, your conduct and your actions, could stumble to friends. Well, this is a good way to stumble to friends. Okay. So that's why some people do it as well. And then for me, I think the biggest pro is it can help promote healing. Like I mentioned, it can provide that closure. And now people can heal, thrive, and begin to discover who they are outside of that identity, especially if they were born and raised in the organization. Even, in my case, I could see how had I done that could have been huge in my healing process once I left, even though I wasn't born and raised in it. So these are just a few points that I had noted as far as positives, pros, or submitting a disassociation letter as an XJW. All right, so let's get into the cons. I think everybody know what the first one would be, which is immediate shunning, right? Family and friends that are still part of the organization, 95%, in most cases, 100% will cut you off immediately, just like that. One of the cons is you don't have that no fade option, right? When you decide to fade, you start by maybe missing service here and there. You start by missing meetings here and there. So it kind of, helps prepare you. But when you give, if you give that, you wake up on a Tuesday, on Wednesday, you got that letter ready and you handing it over to the elders. Well, you've kind of given that transition period. You didn't give it a chance, right? Because you just acted immediately like, no, I no longer want to be a part. And so that could be a con, because it doesn't help you give yourself some time to try to prepare for the backlash, that is going to come, especially for those who are born and raised in it. So in connection with what I just mentioned, as far as the no fade option, is some people may not really fully be ready for the emotional fallout when you turn over that letter, right? Anxiety, guilt, and you may not be as ready as you thought, right? Or maybe you didn't think about it because you were so passionate about whatever triggered you to say, I no longer want to be associated with this organization and I'm turning in this letter today. And so that's one of the cons, right? You may even experience that with faith, and definitely the guilt part, right? The sense of obligation and things of that nature. So this is just another thing to consider on the not so positive side of submitting a disassociation letter. And then the other thing that is definitely a con, you will be weaponized, right, by the organization. I've been seeing so many videos lately where people are basically murmuring about them because they have, left the organization. And in many cases, they have submitted a disassociation letter and they are getting labeled as, mentally diseased. That's wild to me. All because I choose to do something different. I ain't out here hurting nobody. I'm not, committing any crimes, all because I no longer want to practice this style of religion. You get labeled as having a mental disorder. Absolutely wow. But it's something you do need to consider, that, you will become the poster child for, apostasy in so many words. And the last one that I don't think I've ever heard anyone mention this, but I think this is definitely real to consider. It may not bring the relief you expect turning in that letter. Some may feel the same pain whether they fade or disassociate. And so that's real. Sometimes people think if I do X, Y, and Z, it's just going to give you an instant sense of satisfaction. And in some cases, it doesn't. So that's something to consider, especially if you are thinking about fading, in the midst of fading, but, still feeling a type of way, like something's nagging at you that, hey, I think I need to do something else to just really let them know I'm done. So that's something to consider, that submitting a disassociation letter may not bring the relief, the sense of peace, the sense of closure that you may be thinking or thought would happen. So here's 3 questions I have for people who are on the fence. Do I not submit a disassociation letter? Here's 3 questions I want you to consider. 1, are you emotionally prepared for the potential fallout? 2, do you still have loved ones inside that you want to maintain contact with? Real contact, I would say. And 3, what do you need for your own healing? And so based on those, your answers might be able to help you decide which side of this coin, you want to go. So like for me, just in case you was wondering, I have not submitted a disassociation letter. Like I mentioned, I thought by me not going and partaking meant that I had disassociated. Sorry about that, guys. Camera died. So as I was saying, I have not submitted a disassociation letter. I thought by not going no more, doing my own thing meant that I was disassociated. But having this channel, talking with other XJWs, I've learned that no, disassociation, I guess in the formal sense, is submitting that letter and letting the organization know, take my name off the roll. And so for me, I feel like by having this channel, living my life, that is disassociating. But like I mentioned, this topic came up from a discussion in one of my lives last week. And when I started to ponder over some of the information that was being shared in regards to them being able to say, well, we still have this many members, even though they know, that we are XJWs kind of thing, in order to get money to continue to fund their efforts, made me, put a little question mark on maybe I should submit a letter. But I still haven't made up my mind completely. And you don't have to either, right? This video is just for information purposes, right? Just to give you something to think about. and things of that nature. And I think for me, the reason I didn't, initially before the conversation, even think about doing it outside of just not, being an active JW was, they forced that on me. They forced me, and I do say force because they guilted me into and pressured me into. I had to write a letter to let the Baptist church that I was born and raised in and got baptized in, that I wanted them to take me off of their role, off of their membership. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I'll never forget the elder saying, now, we won't know. We're not going to ask for proof or anything like that. But Jehovah will know if you sent that letter or not. Well, honey, with everything else they do, they will always let you know Jehovah is watching. And so I felt like they twisted my arm during that time. I feel like they, writing a disassociation letter will be playing into their hands. But, other XJWs have really helped me appreciate that it's really not about them. The disassociation letter is more about us, the person who wishes to disassociate, and taking their power back and taking a stand, for what they believe in as their truth, So that's just my thoughts and kind of currently where I stand in regards to the issue about do you submit, do you not submit. Wrap up this video. I just want everybody to know there's no one size fits all with this. It's no one size fits all. You have to do what is best for you in your situation, right? What's going to give you the most healing, the most peace, and the most closure. And that will look how you want it to look, that will feel how you want it to feel. And, everybody's exit journey is different. Everybody's. It may have similarities, but everybody's is different, right? Because it's uniquely yours. So I hope that this video is helpful in whatever decision you decide to make, and that it benefits somebody, to hear this, and maybe a discussion can be had. So have you thought about submitting a disassociation letter, or are you someone who has? Please tell us your experience down in the comments, so that we can continue to learn and, just gain from each other's experience, to help us along this journey as we continue to heal and grow and thrive outside of this organization. So I want to thank everyone who has subscribed, Real One Tribe in the house, everyone who watches the videos but has not, had the courage to push subscribe yet. I understand. Keep supporting the channel. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until the next time, I'm out. Peace.